Good afternoon. I am Veronica Blakely, the premier communications coach for entrepreneurs and presenters. Our presentation today is Present It and Quit It, how to give a dynamic presentation to any audience. So let's talk about what the meat of this message is. This presentation is generally about 30 to 45 minutes, but I'm going to get to the meat so that we can eat. Put that in the chat. But get to the meat so that we can eat. This is a way that you can give a dynamic presentation by learning this acronym FLAIR, F-L-A-I-R versus F-L-A-R-E. FLAIR is to do something well. You want to be prepared. You want to show up on time. You want to give people something to take home with them so that they will remember you as a presenter. As opposed to FLAIR, burst of flame, burst of a bright flame. In other words, do you want your presentation to be remembered and be awesome, or do you want it to be a hot mess? So let's try to use the right flair when we're talking in terms about our presentation. And let's start with the F. Have facts in your presentation. Someone talked about this earlier. Having research and data shows that you are the expert. It validates your presentation and it validates you. What will people learn? They're listening to what you're going to share so that they will be able to take notes. When I gave this presentation to the Lakeland Light Chamber, I was surprised when I looked at the picture and all eyes were on me. Well, that's because I had to teach them something. So if they're going to learn something, you have to be able to teach something. And when I'm able to teach them communication skills, that is my background, that is what I do. As a former high school teacher and a former college instructor, teaching is what I do. But make sure that your audience will learn something. A is for action. That A in FLAIR is for action. You have to give actionable steps in your presentation. People are listening for the notes that you want to give out so that they will know that there's something for them to do after the presentation is over. The action steps allow them to want to contact you again if they have some information they want to follow up on, or for you to be hired again for another presentation. Is your presentation of interest? The I in FLAIR is of interest. You have to think in terms of interesting things so that the audience doesn't look confused, like this gentleman here in the photograph. How do you make your presentation interesting? Your message. You want to master the details of your message. You want to know it in and out, backwards and forward, upwards and down. You want to maximize the benefits. How are you different from somebody else who's doing the same thing? You want to memorize your message. Memorize the key points of your message so that if your presentation was to shut down right now, or if your flip chart fell over, or your whiteboard all of a sudden was not available for you, would you know how to deliver your message? You need to memorize your message for your key points. And you also need to monetize your message. Is what you're saying in your presentation is so dynamic that after your presentation, people are going to run out to your table to purchase your products and your services. Not so much that you can sell all the time, but is it worth selling to someone when they hear your message? Your message also needs to be relevant. That's the R in FLAIR. It needs to be relevant to the audience you're speaking with. When I spoke to these ladies with Dress for Success, many of these women were from battered shelters. Many of them were homeless. They had been unemployed, or some of them were in a reentry program because they had been incarcerated. You have to find out who your audience is before you get to your presentation so that you can craft your message to that audience. Even with those individuals in that audience, many of them were being unemployed. At that time, even though I was doing many presentations, I could relate to them being unemployed. Even though I was 4 classes away from the PhD, I couldn't get hired because I had too much experience and too much education. Therefore, I was able to relate to them, even though they may not have had a degree. And I was able to make the unemployment situation relevant to where they were at that particular point in time because it also was relevant to me. Make sure that you are relevant. And again, I'm Veronica Blakely, the premier communication coach for presenters and entrepreneurs, teaching effective communication so you can present it and quit it. Because if you can speak it, I can tweak it.